Welcome to the Danger Zone. It's Ashley. Everything in my video was found on a public domain. Lots of love and many blessings your way. I think we need to talk about Prince Andrew in that interview. What an insult to everybody's intelligence. You guys, before I go any further, I want to say this. I am so tired since this interview has come out. I cannot believe the people that think he's innocent just because of who he is. I'm so ticked off. I must say this. I am that goober in the corner that's watching everybody. I'm not a talker. I never have been. Hell, this is the most I have ever talked in my entire life since creating the Danger Zone. Because I am a sit back and watch kind of gal versus a chatty gal. I've learned a lot about people. The same people that are defending Prince Andrew are the exact same people that would scoot their children into his lap and not even think twice, just because of who he is. He admitted in the interview himself that people act a certain way just because of who he is. Okay, getting back on track. You guys, this interview was called on by Prince Andrew. It's not like the network finally got him to, partake in a sit down. Why now? Why all of a sudden is the Queen and the rest of the royal family, they're not exempt, by the way, pushing this half-wit to sit down and look somebody in the eyes. And I want to point something else too. As an observer, I can tell you I noticed quite a couple of things that was happening with the cameras, even with the cameras during this interview. And we all know it was set up by the royal family. They're not stupid people. I'm just tired of them thinking everybody else is. But every single time a question was asked, especially a difficult question, they had panned out on him. They did not want to get his very first facial reaction because you know what? Guilty is in the face. And that was going on the orders of the royal family. I can tell you that much. And I thank you, Journalist Jay. You're a blessing. So the lady interviewing Andrew, he's no prince to me, you guys. Sorry. The lady interviewing Andrew finally says, we've come to Buckingham Palace in highly unusual circumstances. Normally, we'd be discussing your work, your duty, and we'll come on to that. But today, you've chosen to speak out for the first time. Why have you decided to talk? Now, and in a good stutter and a stammer, here's his answer. Because there is no good time to talk about Mr. Epstein and all things associated. And we've been talking to Newsnight for about 6 months about doing something around the work that I was doing. And unfortunately, we've just not been able to fit it into either of our schedules. So now it's a very good opportunity. I'm delighted to be able to see you today. So they set this up. Timing is everything. Why now? Because it wasn't but you guys, a week and a half ago, the Amy Robach video finally leaked out into the public. She said the network would have totally released this, calling Epstein the largest pedophile in history 3 years ago. However, the royal family threatened the network in a million ways, quote unquote, and the heat has been coming on to them over this leaked video. And by Prince Andrew knowing that this came out, on top of the fact that he's trying to stay as close as he can to a family man in the eyes of the media lately, he wants this monkey off his back. He wants to resume his party boy lifestyle. Believe it or not, he is one. And get out from underneath mama's apron. And they think by him sitting down and giving this interview that this is going to be a pacifier to skip him over. That the FBI has no more questions. He's answered them all. It's suffice. He can go on about his merry way. But that's not what's going to happen. Now, when the question was asked, how did you become friends with Jeffrey Epstein? How did you first become friends? How did you meet? And here's his answer. Well, I met through his girlfriend back in 1999 and I'd known her since she was at university in the UK. And it would be, to some extent, a stretch to say that as it were, we were close friends. I mean, we were friends because of other people. I had a lot of opportunity to go to the United States, but I didn't have much time with him. Lord, he's a moron. Ghislaine Maxwell was the one that recruited these kids. So by him saying, well, I didn't really spend that much time with Epstein is a damn lie. But being BFFs with Ghislaine Maxwell, the recruiter of these young girls as young as 12, what does that say about his character, honestly? The interviewer goes on and says, the public has perceived you to be a party prince. Is that true? Is that the common bond you and Epstein shared? He goes on to say, well, I think that's also a bit of a stretch. I don't know why I've collected that title because I don't. I never have really partied. I was single for quite a long time in the early 80s, but then after I got married, I was very happy and I never really felt the need to go and party. And certainly going to Jeffrey's was just not about partying. Absolutely not. My question is this really fast and we'll get on with it. How do they expect the people, not me, they don't care about me, the taxpayers that they live off the backs of, how do they expect them to trust these people by him saying that big old lie? Check the description box for the full transcript. He wanted to make it out like he was not a good friend with Epstein, that the entire New York Central Park walk was to break up his friendship with Epstein, yet he stayed 4 additional days with Epstein after breaking up his friendship with Epstein due to convenience. I could freaking cuss. How stupid do they think we are? Convenience, you guys, think about it. Out of his own mouth, he admits that he's treated with privilege due to who he is. So in a matter of a half a second, if he didn't want to stay there, if it was too uncomfortable, all he had to do is have his people pack him up and take him to one of these 5-star hotels, motels, whatever they're called, downtown New York, and the problem would have been solved. That would have been way too inconvenient for him. I would love to have a sit down with that one individual on planet Earth that believes he stayed with Jeffrey Epstein out of convenience. And was it due to that same convenience that he stayed downtown with Ghislaine, with young girls coming in and out, that he couldn't tell the difference if they were staff members or, there to give you a good Russian foot massage? He's been to the man's New York apartment. He's been to the Florida house. He's been to the private island. He's been on the private jet, Lolita Express. Epstein's little black book has about 30 contact phone numbers for Prince Andrew and about 25 more for Sarah Ferguson, his wife. And during this interview, he was talking how he's privileged. He can get just about anywhere and go anywhere and do anything and meet anybody due to who he is. And when the lady asked him, do you regret your friendship with Epstein? His answer was no. He doesn't regret his friendship with Epstein, whatever little bit it was, because he got to meet so many interesting, really high dog positioned people. Using the excuse, Epstein was a good guy to know. He knew everybody. Mathematicians, scientists, lawyers, congressmen, presidents, and the list kept going. You just got done saying how you're very privileged, and due to who you are, you can do and say and meet just about anybody you want to. Painting a picture to us stupid people out there that he needed Jeffrey Epstein's friendship. He needed that network. But wait a minute, Andy. You are who you are. Therefore, you don't need anybody to help you network. Thanks for sticking your foot in your mouth. Here in the South, we call that popping a squat and falling back into it, big dummy. Now, as it was told to me, by the time the network had arrived to Buckingham Palace to have this interview with old Andy, everything was already set up, ready to go, including the list of questions that he had handed her to ask him. Now, that packet of questions were designed for him to be able to skate around. They know he's not a very strong-minded person. He's not smart at all. Therefore, they needed to give him something easy to be asked. I didn't feel like it was a very good sit-down interview from start to finish. I felt it was completely insulting. I think things that should have been asked were, why exactly was Sarah Ferguson taking money from Epstein since y'all weren't friends? Who said it was okay that Epstein and Ghislaine spend time at Sandringham? Who gave the permission for Ghislaine to hold an event at the palace? And when asked about the last time seeing Ghislaine, he said that it was over the summertime. And I want you guys to watch that interview. Pay close attention to his answer. He just about let something slip that he didn't want out there. And he flip-flopped. He changed it real quick. He said, no, it wasn't the summer. It was way early spring. And no. The entire royal family have nothing to do with any of this. It's all my fault. They were all in on this. What they're not bringing out is the fact that Prince Harry was with Epstein on a private flight going to South Africa. And that was a couple of years ago. Nobody asked that question. Prince Andrew wasn't the only family member having ever spent time with Epstein. If the interviewer would have strayed off the packet of questions, that entire situation would have been shut down. He would have gotten up and walked away. That was the agreement, as it was told to me. I think it was 58 and a half minutes of a waste of time. What irks me too is he couldn't remember things that he should have been able to recollect, but he could tell you almost down to the socks that were on his feet, every detail of him going to Woking Pizza Parlor for a party for one of his daughters, the day that he's being accused of having an orgy with a slew of underage girls. And I call BS. And another thing that threw me off, I want you guys to watch the interview and notice when she brings up Epstein's death. There's out a couple of details that just shouldn't even matter. I personally don't believe Epstein's dead. You can disagree with me, that's okay, a lot of people do. And with me believing that Epstein is alive and well, let's face it, he had his finger on the trigger. At any time of his death, there are people out there to release information on some pretty big people. And I believe that would be carried out as soon as he was officially dead. But by Andy's complete body language, his reaction, and the way he responded to the question of Epstein's death, putting in a dribble of unnecessary information regarding the neck bone, and the fact that he ran to his mommy so everybody would know of his whereabouts the weekend that that death notice was announced, I do believe he's helping Epstein and Ghislaine throughout this world, wherever they are. He knows what's going on. So this is not their first rodeo when it comes to being drilled for answers. And like I mentioned earlier, timing has a lot to do with every bit of this, but there's something coming up in the future that he needs to handle stateside, him and him alone. And I think that's another reason why he sat down and agreed to this interview. And only time will tell. He is such a perv that he can't help himself from eyeing this woman from top to bottom and from bottom to top. Literally looked at her like she was a basket of muffins. And do you guys remember not too long ago Courtney Love was talking about how sick he was, how he showed up in the middle of the night, banging on her door, demanding sex from her, and she's like, no, not me. It's just the norm for this group of demons, really. They can't live normal. They can't be satisfied with what they have and see it as a gift and try to help people. They've got to plow down towards hell. If you want to know somebody, meet their friends. Like while he was on the boat with all of those topless women. He was sitting there with Marcus Anderson, and then he wants to act like he doesn't know Meghan? Give me a break. And just like I don't buy into the royal family not being aware of Jimmy Savile and his character, I'm not buying into them not knowing anything about Epstein and his, or Ghislaine and hers, or Courtney Love, or Oprah, or Hillary. Any of them. They're all the same, you guys, at the end of all of this, he couldn't even muster up an apology. Not one. He could have at least apologized to these young girls for being in that situation. It would not have made him look guilty to give them an apology. It makes him look guilty for not giving one, in my opinion. You guys, I hope you're having a wonderful day. I'll see you soon. We'll talk a lot faster. Y'all stay safe and be blessed.